Hey everyone, welcome to the 9.10 test server once again. There's another video up already that's going to show you guys, or coming up extremely soon, that's going to show you guys all the Japanese tanks, which you can see here, all the new ones, which are absolutely huge. And there's also a video that's going to show you the changes done to Redshire this time around. So remember, Pearl River and Hidden Village have been removed, Redshire has been reworked, so there is quite a few significant changes on that. So I suggest you go and check that out. But this time around here, I'm going to show you the 20 new HD tanks that are coming, or 20 reworked to HD tanks that are coming in 9.10. So they're all tanks that already exist. And I'm going to start out by showing you, well, Czechoslovakia. There's no Czechoslovakia tech tree yet. I believe that's coming soon, and they're preparing for it. Possibly in the next update. I can't recall. I can't remember from what I've seen in other places. But anyway, checking out some of these tanks. Well, let's look at the Type 59, because this is one that a lot of people aren't going to have and be able to show you. Look how tiny it looks compared to those Japanese heavies. That's just silly. Type 59, great tank. I'm not sure exactly what they changed. I know that the gun was broken on the super test, but the armor on it. But now it is probably fine, or it will be by the time it's released into the live server, I imagine. I can't recall what it actually has for armor. 100mm sounds familiar on the live server. 200mm turret armor sounds about right. It is shaped a little bit differently than I recall. The icon and the garage carousel there definitely looks a lot different. And once again, if you're looking to download this test server for yourself, the test client, link in the video description, link to the other videos that I have up as well, and it'll tell you a little bit more details about what's new in this update in 9.10 than I will have told you in these videos too. So I suggest you check that out. There's not a whole lot of change in this update, but a lot of vehicle stuff is the big thing, the Japanese heavies and all that jazz. I don't recall, looking at the bottom of the turret, see how the bottom underneath on the hull is angled backwards or towards the hull, inwards? I don't remember it being like that before. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was. So that's interesting. But once again, tanks look beautiful. It actually looks used. For some reason, I saw the graphics on this tank, just the way the tank looked, and I thought, oh, Fury, the movie, not the tank in the game, but the movie. It reminded me of the movie. I don't know if it's just the wear and tear patterns on the thing or what, but it reminded me of it somehow. Maybe I just need to watch the movie again. It's probably my problem. So let's move on to another tank here. We'll look at the T-28 next, which is the... Oh my god. There is so many tanks in here, and I miss my garage sorting carousel mod stuff. And I'm having a horrible time finding each tank. Oh god, is that a Russian tank? Please let it be a Russian tank. It's a Russian tank. Alright, T-28. So once again, all these tanks I've upgraded to their top. So if you want us to pause and look at the stats and compare it with what you have on the live server, that's perfectly fine. This thing looks different to me. But the radio, suspension, engine, turret, gun, that's all just what is at the top of the list I've chosen for the gun. So keep that in mind. But this T-28, I drove it for a little bit. I actually legitimately played through it to get to the next tank there, and it was worth it. It's not a bad tank. There's definitely worse tanks in the game, but there's definitely better ones as well. But the top of the engine compartment, you can call that the engine compartment because that's kind of the engine compartment back there, looks... I guess that's the engine compartment too. Anyway, it looks different. I can't recall exactly how. This is definitely different on the side, I think. Oh man, it's been a while since I looked at this tank though, so maybe I'm completely wrong. But it's nice. It feels bigger than I remember it being as well. Alright, so next up, let's take a look at the Su-76M. Now, I was at a TeamSpeak room with a few of the guys when I was trying to go through and purchase all these tanks, which took forever, by the way, on the test server to research and upgrade and purchase them all and have garage space and... oh my. But the Su-76M, as far as I can tell, is the Su-76. I think it's, nope, I had it right. The Su-76M here is the Su-76 in the Tankopedia on the World of Tanks website, if you ever looked at that. But I don't know. They added the M there this update or something. Nobody knew what I was talking about in the TeamSpeak room and all that. But this appears to be it. You can see the gun there. That's kind of nice to see. You can see where the ammo rack is. And from what I've learned for playing the game, if you can see an ammo rack strapped to the side of the inside of a vehicle like this, and you shoot that spot from the outside, it tends to be quite effective at damaging and destroying ammo racks. So just keep that in mind if you're ever fighting an open hatch vehicle and you know where its ammo rack is. Try for that. It can be spectacular. Oh man, that could be quite the shell trap in there. If it somehow hit the bottom of that mantlet, the gun mantlet, and ricocheted downwards, it could do a little bit of damage there. Shell trap. Trap the shell in there and basically force it to do damage in a way. This is a tank that I haven't played myself, so I know very little about it. But it looks good, and I think it looks good just because of the open hatch, or the open top design. Alright, so now the SU-122A. And Russian. Alright, here we go. There's so many tanks in my garage. There's just, it's silly. And here we go. So lots of battle wounds, as I like to see on these tanks. Barrel appears to be rifled. I can't zoom in any farther than this, so you're just going to take my word for it if you can't see it very well on the YouTubers. Your ammo rack inside, you can see your gun and all that jazz. And it looks quite nice. And by the way, they have been thinking about reworking, or they are apparently going to rework some of the first HD tanks they put into the game because they're not how they want them to be. They kind of, I guess they changed their standards since they actually added those. And now we have the next we have the Pak 43 Jagdtiger, and I saw that and I'm like, huh? A what? It's this. It's the 8.8. It's just always shown in game to me as Jagdtiger 8.8 or 8.8 Jagdtiger or something like that. So I never saw the Pak 43 before, and I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? But that doesn't look. Maybe it is HD. It doesn't look HD to me. Does it look HD to you? But it says in the changelog, Pak 43 Jagdtiger. This is the Pak 43 Jagdtiger. It's the only one that showed up in the Tankopedia as HD as well. But it doesn't look HD. No, there's no rifled barrel, or the barrel's not even hollow. Something's fishy here, Wargaming. There's a couple other situations where I'm a little bit iffy about it as well. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, I don't know how to pronounce this thing. I'm not even going to bother. This thing, it's like a bigger E25. I showed it off in the 9.9 test server as well, but they never did release it. I guess they wanted to make more changes to it, or they had to fix the model, or something happened there. So I showed it in the 9.9 video, but I'll show it again here because it might be coming out in 9.10. People are going to be like, huh, what's this? I never saw it when I looked at Space's videos. But I'll have to figure out what's going on about that 8.8. Because I don't know what Wargaming's doing there. But it looks nice here. And next up we have the Jagdpanzer 4, which is here. Got some side skirts on this bad boy. Don't think it had side skirts before, did it? This is another tank that I haven't played before, so I haven't went down the German TD line. Actually, I kind of have, but I also kind of skipped over some. And loading up the tech tree if it loads faster. Just looking at, yeah, there is 2 German TD lines too, which is part of my confusion. I've been going down the top one. I'm on the Sturmil, how do you pronounce that right now, going towards the Waffenträgers, as opposed to going down this line. Side skirts are very interesting. Not sure their actual armor value is. If they're 0mm armor, or if they're nothing at all for collision model, or if they're actually something that's worth maybe even trying to sidescrape your tank against. But I doubt it, because this part is still going to be probably just as thick as it was before. And you've got your tracks that are already down here where the space armor is actually covering. So that seems pointless to me. Plus you're a tank destroyer with no turret. Side scraping just kind of sounds silly. You're going to get yourself tracked and be perma-tracked. My ideas are flawed. Okay, now Leo Prototype A. Oh man. Again, this tank doesn't look super HD. It does have the rifled barrel though, so it must be but the texture doesn't look as high quality to me for some reason. And on YouTube, you probably won't be able to tell a difference, and you'll be like, Space, what are you talking about? It looks exactly the same, especially if you're not watching at 1080p. But this, it looks nice. I like the engine compartment back there on the engine deck, how it's not perfectly level the whole way across. One side sticks up a little bit farther than the other, and that it kind of shows imperfection, and imperfection is kind of real life, especially on something like this that you'd think that would in the middle of the war, if this is a wartime tank, which I think it's post-war. I might be wrong. That's a guess, to be honest. So just leave it if I'm wrong. This looks blurry. But if it was during the war, then I think a lot of things would be kind of rushed. Lots of variances made in parts, depending on what factory made it and how patient the workers were being that day. But moving on again, we have the... Oh my, German, I can't speak German. The blah, blah, blah. The Panzer KV 35T. Oh man, you guys. Why did you do this to me, guys? Alright, so this tank looks good again. And this looks better than the Leo to me, in my opinion. It's got shell craters. It has lots more wear and tear look on it. The texture looks like it's a higher quality. Maybe that's just because I can't zoom in as far. I kind of can, but I kind of can't. And it looks very nice to me. The suspension looks nice and detailed. Nice round wheels as opposed to the square ones you get on the really old non-HD models, especially. Yeah, that's a good looking tank. Fuel tanks placed on the back. Exhaust. I just like looking at round things and seeing roundness as opposed to looking at old models and not seeing round things that should be round. Instead they look like hexagonal. Next up, Martyr 2 Tank Destroyer, Tier 3. Same story here. Looks decent. Barrel is hollow. That's a good sign. Again, the texture doesn't look that great to me. I'm not sure what it is. If some of these tanks have a lower resolution texture placed on them, or my eyes are starting to get bad, or what's happening here. Maybe there's some graphical issue with the anti-aliasing, I think it is, that they had before, or anisotropic filtering, however you pronounce that. Panzerjäger 1. Alright, there we go. Panzerjäger 1, right here. Alright, so that's the Tier 2, which is why I didn't see it, I guess. I had a hard time finding it, and I'm making excuses even though I'm going to cut that out anyway. But anyway, yeah. Here's the Panzerjäger 1. Again, not a tank I've driven. At this point in the game, if I have a Tier 1 or Tier 2 to grind through, unless they somehow seem significant or stand out to me, like they have a derp gun at Tier 3, then I tend to skip over them with free experience just because it's kind of a waste. Or if I do play them, then it's like 3 battles and I'm past it. So, carrying on. That's interesting suspension. Anyways, carrying on. Next up, we have the where were we? Sturmpanzer 2. Aha. Which is also in here somewhere. I know I have you. I have you somewhere. There we go. Artillery. One of the few artillery pieces that have actually been put in HD in this update. There isn't, or at all, to be honest. So far they have, what was the first one they put in HD? The Hummel, right? I think that's the only other one. They have the M41 HMC, which we'll get to in a minute. This is now in HD as well. This thing looks long as for an artillery to me. But, whatever. It's another one of those open top ones. You can see the scratches where the shell would be slid into place. Or slammed into place. Leaf springs in the suspension. And that's interesting suspension. I like how every vehicle, not every vehicle, but a lot of the vehicles have their own kind of unique suspension. And how back in the day there's probably a lot of different, I don't want to call them inventors, a lot of different people, a lot of different companies trying to come up with their own way to do the suspension that was reliable and cheaper, and to make the German army use it, you know, and various other armies, because, well, that's a great way to make money and support your troops at the same time in your country and all that jazz. This thing, though, again, haven't. If I had played this, it was a long time ago. I've had the Hummel for years, and I rarely ever play it anymore. I had the Hummel when it was a tier 5 still. That's back before there was tier 10 mediums and artillery. So, VK1602, I feel like I might have missed this one. Oh yeah, I definitely missed the VK1602 because, well, it's the Leopard, Leopard. I've never heard anybody refer to it as the 1602, which is why I missed it. That front, did that always look like that? Was there always a big hole in the tank? Not a hole, but the corner between the side of the hull and the front of the hull. Again, not a tank I've actually driven before. Fought many of them, but I've never noticed that before. So maybe that's different, maybe that's not. Yeah, definitely I missed this tank when I was getting all the other ones. So I quickly upgraded it to max and all that good stuff. So we have it. And the next one that I would like to show you. Okay, what? So I just took another look at looking at the World of Tanks website on my one screen here, and I see the change log, and it says the VK1602 Leopard. I'm sorry if I should be pronouncing it Leopard. It shows that as 2 separate tanks in the change log, and I counted it, and there's 21 vehicles in their list if you count that as 2 separate vehicles. But it says there were 20 in HD, and I even went on TeamSpeak there, talked to somebody who actually owns one of these things on their actual live server account and has played it many times. No, the VK1602 Leopard is whatever. It's 1 tank. There's not 2 tanks. Wargaming, you have screwed up. I even talked to you about the Pack 43 Jagdtiger. There is only 1 Pack 43 Jagdtiger in the entire game, and the one that's on the test server is not in HD. Why it isn't? Because they said it was? I don't know. They also messed up the T-71. Well, kinda. The T-71 itself was fine, but they said in the change log that the name of the T-71, the Tier 7 American light tank, has been changed to the T-71E1. No, it hasn't. I'll show you that is one of the next tanks that I show you here, and no, it's not. So here's the VK1602 Leopard, and well, that is 1 tank. So I'm sorry, but that has caused me so much confusion. Wargaming has screwed up the patch logs so far, or else screwed up the actual test server. Actually, both. Apparently there's a bug on the test server right now, too, where if you're in the middle of a battle, your tank dies, as it often does, and then you exit the game, you get penalized as if you exited the game in the middle of the game when your tank was still alive. That normally gives you an extra fine, and you can get your count banned for that and stuff like that, too. But let's move on. So as we move on here, we can't, because the next tank I was going to show you is the Panzer II-J, which can't show you that because that's a premium tank that I explained earlier that I cannot get without spending a stupid amount of money on some box set that was an old box set that came with the game. So we'll have to skip over to the American artillery now, the M41 HMC. Alright, so the American artillery line, did I call it a tank destroyer? It's artillery. This is a tank that a line that I kind of want to go down one day. And one day I will, I'm sure, because the Americans have that great splash radius. This looks pretty nice. Look at all the little details. If you had to make a model of this tank, you would have a horrible time, especially if it was a really nice big one. They'd have you attaching all the various little wheels, and there's just an infinite amount of knobs and other details they could throw in there. Speaking from experience, not with this, but with a couple others that I have made. Looks very nice. A little bit of wear and tear of the gun as where it would normally depress inwards. All the mechanical movement spots, as usual. Tracks look quite nice. Looks like some wear and tear, which I love to see, wear and tear on tanks. So then next up, we'll check out the T-71, which I already had to complain about a little bit a moment ago there, because I don't know, this has been the most confusing patch logs I've ever had to look through, and it was already a little bit frustrating having to find all these tanks and research them all. I don't know why there isn't just some way that it would be nice. I know why, but it would be nice if they had some way where you could just go ahead and research and purchase to your garage and get rid of all the others except for what was new in this update. that's never going to happen for what I think are obvious reasons from a programmer standpoint. But yeah, so the T-71, I might, if I remember, even put up a picture here of what the T-71 looks like on the live server right now, because this has changed a lot. So on the T-71 on the live server, this is not a diagonal slope on the back of the armor. It is square. And actually, on the T-71 on the live server right now, if you put your gun facing behind you and then depress it as far as it can go, it'll actually go through part of your tank, through the top of the engine compartment. And the reason the T-71 changed so much here is because, okay, from what I understand here, back in the day when this tank was originally designed, there's two different manufacturers that submitted design for it. And one was the hull. One design showed this. The other design showed, I think, a slightly different turret. I might be wrong there. But the hull was completely different, which is what we have in the live turret now. So what we actually had in the game on the live server in 9.9 and earlier was a turret designed by one manufacturer and a hull designed by another manufacturer. So that's why they look different now. This, you look at it and it's like, oh, look, the armor is so much better now. It's actually got slope. It's going to bounce so many shells even from the back because that slope's amazing. And then you look at the armor and it's got 25 millimeters at tier 7. You know, you're not bouncing anything. The only thing that won't hurt you when it hits you are things that either A, hit the gun barrel, B, hit the tracks, or C, well, you are a very religious person and your God is watching you and has your back. So next up, we're going to head over to the T110E5. This tank, by the way, I haven't actually driven it on the test server yet. I haven't looked at the stats either. Maybe I'll do that. Screenshot. I want to take a look at its stats now compared to what are actually on the live server on my own time, because I like this tank. I've recently fallen in love with it, and I hope that it didn't change it significantly. The T110E5 now is the next American heavy tank that we're going to show you, and it's an HD. So I think, it's hard to tell, I think they might have changed the shape of the turret a tiny bit. People are complaining that the commander's hatch is easier to penetrate now. It actually has a little bit more armor than it did before. We're like talking like 10 millimeters more than it had before. But I don't know, maybe its shape is different. It looks pretty similar to me. But it doesn't take a whole lot of change to make that any better. I'm not sure if the turret itself is flatter. The first time I saw a picture, a render of this tank in HD, I was like, oh yeah, it definitely looks different. But now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know if I'm just used to the HD version now or if there really isn't that many changes. I'll have to look at that one. Maybe I'll put an image up of that one for the live servers, of this one as well from the live server. But the back looks the same. The taillights look at least very close to the same, if not the same. Whole engine compartment looks very familiar. I have quite a few battles in this thing. Haven't played a whole lot recently, but which is why I'm having a hard time remembering some of the changes that might have been done to it. But as you can see, it was a favorite for a while. Got the Canadian flag and stuff that I actually paid gold for. I think they changed the armor around a little bit too, but don't quote me on that. As far as the lower plate thickness, so it might not show up in the stats, because the hull armor 254 millimeters is like the thickest part of the front of the upper plate there. I think they weakened the lower plate though, but I'm not entirely certain, so don't quote me on that. And then next up, we only have a few left. We're gonna have the M2 light tank. That's why I can't find it. Light tank. There we go. Haven't played this thing in forever. I think I played it back in my first few months in World of Tanks. So this is probably, I think I played it. I could check my service record, but if I have, then it was like the first tier 2 tank I ever played, and I haven't touched it since. I don't think I had it in my garage anymore either. So what it looked like before, I don't know. But looks good like just about every other HD tank that's in the game now. And then we're going to move on to a couple French tanks that we have. So France, let's get rid of this filter. We have the AMX M445 and the ARL44, which would be the tier 6 and the tier 7. We'll go with the ARL44 first here. This is the tank that I think this is the tank that Bruiser likes quite a bit. He likes the gun on it. He says it's a little bit derpy. What's it have? Well, there's quite a few guns you can choose from, so that really narrows it down. Not at all. He might have the derp. Probably has the 105 on it. Maybe he has the 90. Who knows? It looks nice. It's a nice big tank too, and it, in my opinion, it has the tracks are very unique on this French vehicle, by the way, compared to a lot of other nations. But it's a nice looking vehicle in my opinion. It might be big and bulky and kind of not make sense as far as the way it is, but it's actually got a fair amount of armor for a French vehicle, and just because it's so big and it's got big flat sides, there's room to put other details, but there's not big flat empty sides too much that it looks boring. I don't know, it looks neat. That is a lot of exhaust pipes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 exhaust pipes. That's significant. I just like looking at the back of tanks. It's the tank booty. Oh man. I know, that's a very nice looking tank. You can see the drippage of any corrosion or rust that's starting to form up there. It's yellow because the crew have to go to the washroom somewhere when they're in there, you know. I'm kidding. And then we have the AMX M4 45. It looks like a very plain ARL 44 in a way, doesn't it? It's a very similar size and pretty similar shape-ish, but it's quite a few differences. It's pathetic side skirts there that are just kind of there to throw you off and be like, huh, is it a side skirt or is it not a side skirt when you're shooting at the thing? This kind of keeps you from putting high explosive rounds through the links in the tracks, I think. Once again, looks very nice. Does it have has the rifled gun barrel, of course. That's almost like the HD signature trademark HDness. And then one last tank before we move on here, and that is the Black Prince. The Churchill Black Prince. Oh man, I thought this was a tank they already put in HD, but the changelog says it, so it must be true because, you know, it hasn't been wrong 3 other times so far in this video. That has really thrown me off, by the way. That's caused so much confusion. Hopefully they get it right. Hopefully they fix everything that they said is corrected, either in the changelog or in the actual game very soon. Not a week from now. That would be nice to avoid other people the same confusion. I've never actually looked at the Black Prince closely. Have again fought quite a few of them, and I have a hard time fighting them from the front, being as they are pretty well armored. But I didn't notice that there was the extra bar armor going underneath the gun there. Can almost see down into the engine compartment. Every once in a while I see something where light hits it the right way and I can actually see something down there, but I think it's just like the back of the rear, like the inside of the rear of the tank that I see. Don't think there's an actual engine or anything like that modeled in there. Looking at these exhaust ports as well, or are they air intakes or exhaust? Probably air intakes, I'm guessing. Again, I'm guessing at everything as usual. But that's about it for this time around, guys. These are some long videos showing off new tanks, aren't they? There's a lot of new ones. How many HD tanks were there in the previous updates? I don't think it was 20 HD vehicles. Especially not 20 plus an extra 9. Actually, kind of 10 new vehicles if you include that that German premium thing that was in the 9.9 test server as well. This thing, whose name will not be pronounced. Well, anyways, guys, thanks for watching, putting up with my terrible pronunciation of tanks and mass confusion of various things because the changelog is weird and changes made in the test server don't reflect what's in the actual Tankopedia now because it's a test server and it's a whole thing and it's confusing. And if anybody can clear up why the Pack 43 Jagdtiger, the 8.8 Jagdtiger, is listed in the changelog is Pack 43 Yog Tiger when everybody knows it is the 8.8 or 8.8, whatever you want to call it. That would be great, especially since it's not HD. That is not HD. That just doesn't reflect light the same way. It just doesn't look. You can see the tracks, the road wheels, I mean, are very square. That's definitely not HD. So they must have forgot to add it in or something when they pushed out the update. But anyway, that's enough rambling on. I'll see you guys later. Hopefully I can get some real videos going up soon. That would be very nice. Yeah. Maybe when this comes out in actual HD, I'll check it out and make a video as well. But we'll see. Goodbye, guys. Oh, wargaming.